just demonstrate it this way. But so what you do is you're going to take this and kind of pull it like this, okay? Then you take your second one, and this one works for wound healing from inside out. Like I've been finding that, you know, you can put things on the surface of a wound, but really all the crap tissue that's on the surface of these wounds usually is very difficult to pass through. So what you're going to do is typically you'll just pull. It's a little bit less sticky than OR usually, but you'll pull basically this graft sort of interior like this, right? All right, and normally it's a little further over, but obviously for demonstration purposes, this is a scissor. All right, so once you've got your far ones in there, okay, you cut whatever excess graft you don't really need, okay? And typically what I'll do to do this tenting technique, what you need to do is you need to pull the suture, okay? You do your throw and you grab it at the skin, okay, under tension. So you're tying the knot, beep, come here you, flush to the skin like this with tension. And so what that does, yeah, obviously a little easier to catch that. Come here, you get the idea though. And then so what you're doing basically is you're tying it percutaneously. Same thing on both sides.
So what type of wounds are you using this technique?
Diabetic, primarily post-surgical wounds, like post-op wound dehiscences, for example. Like I've got, you know, a couple of my partners do plantar plate repairs and stuff like that, and a lot of these folks. So I'll have some case studies I'll show you. So again, under tension, hold it under tension, and then tie it flush to the skin.
Do you ever take and then when you have your knot there, just end up throwing another stitch to bury that knot and use monocryl?
You can, yeah. I usually I end up using monocryl most of the time just because it's fairly thin and non-reactive, and it won't be around for too long. You know, but I've kind of tried other suture and stuff like that as well. I mean, theoretically you could use a non-absorbable, but you're still gonna have a knot left over interiorly, you know. So once you got those far corners, then, excuse me, then you tag your near corners. Right. Like so. Yep, well, that didn't stick very well there. Hang on a second. Try that one more time. Do that corner right there. And again, the nice thing about this graft is that it is fairly thick, so it does have the tensile strength to throw suture into it, and you can, you know, as long as you're not roughhousing with it or doing too hard there, you can actually get it to close up to tie real easily into a suture there. All right. Little extra cut there. There you go. Sorry about that. Cut that one.
So it makes a sense
Yeah,
there.
thank you. You're doing a fantastic job, man. Like you've done this before. Nope. And so the idea is that you're tagging all your corners. So just find a good solid corner somewhere, hand tie it off. There you go. And then what you're going to find is that this will not only heal the wound, but it'll also transform the tissue that's underneath the wound. It makes it a lot softer, a lot more supple, and I have not had anyone, knock on wood, re-ulcerate with this technique yet. So there you go. All right, and then same kind of deal. Pardon me. Sick here. So again, going inside out. Okay. Cap your needle so you don't get hepatitis, and then do that, or other diseases. And same thing here. So it's a little time consuming, but man, the payoff, the payoff when you see what happens to the wound afterwards. So again, pull it under tension, hold the knot flush to the skin.
But if you have a wound dehiscence, it's going to be hard to pull the edges together.
It will be, but you know what? I've had so many wound dehiscences and honestly, the graft material helps it heal. I mean, like these will open up, and that's the thing. You don't want to overstuff these. That's the key. Is like I used to stuff like, oh, more graft is better, but not so much. You have to go a little bit smaller than, because unless you're removing or taking out tissue, you're stuffing something in a void where the volume is going to be more than what you had beforehand. Right. So I'm careful to try to excise scar tissue when I can, but yeah, you definitely don't want to overstuff these grafts. So what I'll do for this is that at this point, so you'll have like a graft that's laying down like flat. So this can go below a first metatarsal, which is a real common place, below the fifth metatarsal. So the first, you're going to go medial here, bring down the subq. If you need to do a tibial sesamoid planing, whatever, then you put that graft there. For the fifth met, same thing. You just go laterally. You do a plantar condylectomy and slide it beneath between the capsule and the subq layer.
So you don't want to put it directly on the bone.
You can, but usually I'm gonna usually put it extracapsular because it's got more blood supply. You know, I'm looking to put it in the subcutaneous and fascial layer, And then you just close primarily the wound. You know, you just use a regular, you know, suture technique or whatever you want to use on here to get the wound to close. But the implant technique works well for when you have like a post-op wound dehiscence, for example, and you want to close back over the wound. Even amputations, like some of the guys were showing that they basically, thank you, buddy. They were basically putting it inside, like Kimmel showed how he put it inside an amputation. Same kind of principle. It's more about the biology at this point, but what you'll find also is if you put it below bony prominence, it's much more soft and supple, you know, because they have these chronic wounds that are not very elastic at all. And then if you put this stuff in there, the tissue becomes so much more supple. And I've seen patients now 2 years post implant, and it's not, you know, you don't have the graft is no longer there, but the tissue is different than what it was when you started off with. So that's that technique. And then